Okay, so this is a tutorial about building objects using simpler objects. So yesterday in class, working with Daniel, we were making letters out of basically rectangular blocks and stuff like that. So, excuse me, I wanted to kind of, Daniel asked me would I put together this tutorial, and that's absolutely fine. If any of you have anything you want me to make a tutorial on, whether it's Photoshop or Illustrator, you just let me know and I'll do it. So maybe I'll show you this first. I've got a file here on this computer where I took in all of these, excuse me, I took in all of this logo shit and I started making them. So I would choose one in there and just make it, and you can see, like there's that one there, there was one in there. I can't quite see it now as I look at it. But say this one here, there it is there. So I just built that up using rectangles essentially and put them all together. And you can see there's the arrow there. And you can see the way the roughness of that sketch, if I try and replicate that too exactly, you can see the way the triangle of this is off. So sketches are one thing, but what you're doing is you're bringing them in here to clean them up and make them a bit better. And so there's that infinity looking sign there, And what I did was I just got a brush with a tapered end, both ends, and I just drew that curve with the smoothing thing on it, and then I just duplicated it, made one of them gray, put it behind it, centered them on each other, and there's my logo. This heart one, split in two, I kind of did a variation on that. I forgot to put the inner heart on it, but it's there. This one here is this one here. This is the cleaned up version of that one. And yeah, so that one and that one. Yeah, so these are mostly made of rectangles. So I'll close this and I'll make a new document. I'm just going to go at A4. Okay, so let me just move some of this out of the way. Now, as before, if you, let's say I like keeping these particular things open. I've got swatches there, and that's a color thing, so I'm going to put that in there with that one. Symbols, probably won't be using that, so I'm going to close that. And then brushes. I might want to keep my brushes palette as a separate thing. I'm going to say window, workspace, new workspace, and I'm going to call this Will 1 and OK it. And then in theory, if I open up a bunch of windows here all over the place, in theory, if I just go back to workspace, Will 1, oh, I could reset that to that. I thought it was going to get rid of those, but but if you're on another machine later on and you want to get back to that workspace, you can just use that. All right, so how do we build this up? One of the things you could use is the grid. So I'm going to go show grid down here, right? So let's zoom in on that. So Command plus on a Mac. Sorry, Control plus here, maybe. Let's see. Command plus on a Mac, Control plus on a PC. If you zoom in, you can see the grid, and that can be very useful for drawing. Say if you're doing type, for instance. So I might decide, right? So you can see there's bigger squares that contain grid of smaller squares. So just subdivide it down. So let's say if I go 3 big squares across by 4 high, that is my that's the space I'm working in, right? Might even have to go a bit bigger than that. But anyway, let's just build something at the moment. So I'm going to take a rectangle and I'm going to go there. So that's my first block, right? So let's say, as before, I'm going to build an F. I'm going to make sure that this is set to no fill, just so that I can see things a little easier. I'm going to select this, and I'm going to Alt and drag to make a copy. I see that pink line tells me there. So I'm going to drag that to there. Now I'm going to drag out another one. This time I'm going to rotate that. So I move my cursor just outside it. I'm not pressing anything. Hold the Shift key, click and drag, and that drags it in 45-degree increments. And I'm going to place that there. So I feel that if this F is going to be proportional, this stem on the left needs to be bigger, or these need to be smaller. So I'm going to take these two and drag those back to there. And I kind of feel that's a pleasing F, if you like. But if you can see, I've started at the top, and by 4 big squares later, I hit the bottom. The F is contained within these 2 big squares. So the top one is lined up with the top of the top square. The bottom one is lined up with the bottom of the second square. So there's proportion and reasoning for everything there. So I'm going to select these two. And over here in my align tool, I can align them to the top. And then I'm going to select everything and align it to the left. You can see that. Now, to be particularly thorough about it, I'm just going to move it in so it fits into that grid perfectly. So that's my shape. Now I can select it all and I can combine it all into one shape. Let's not do that just yet. Command Z to undo. I'm going to select all of this and I'm going to Alt and drag to here. Let's drag it to here. Because one of the things we were doing yesterday was we were making, excuse me, we were making a letter P. So what I'm going to do is I'm just doing this off the top of my head. I haven't planned this. So I'm just going to basically show you how I would try and solve the problem. So I'm going to make a circle for the curved, rounded edge of the P here. So I'm going to say, I'm going to line it up at the top. I'm going to Alt and drag, no, sorry, Shift and drag, excuse me, down to the bottom. And that is the, now I'm just going to try and figure out where it lines up. I'm going to place it there. So right in the center of it there. I'm also going to take this circle and I'm going to Command C, Command V to paste it. And I'm going to place it exactly on top of itself. And this time I'm going to scale it down. Now, you know, you drag the shift, you hold Shift key and drag, and that scales it in proportion. But if you hold Shift and Alt and drag, it scales down towards its center. So I know, looking at it, that each of those bars on the F are 4 small squares wide. So I'm going to make that the same for this. You can see there that it lines up perfectly inside. It's touching the edge of that. So you can kind of see that the P is in there, can't you? So let's do a bit of sculpting on this one with Shape Builder. So I go into, because you can use these Pathfinder things, but they're very big. That'll just combine everything. It'll separate things. But the Shape Builder will give us some more options. So I'm going to draw around where I want all of the elements that make up the P to combine. Actually, I shouldn't have done that one, so I'm going to Command Z to undo that. Actually, no, I was right. Yeah, I want that. And then I'm going to go to Alt mode. So I'm going to hold the Alt key down, and then you see it goes to minus there. So leave it on alone. It's in plus, so it's adding things together. Alt is subtracting things. That's a pretty snazzy P, if I say so myself. So let's get these guys here, and I am going to, actually before I do that, just as a visual thing, I am going to drag that back to there. That's halfway through that square, because just to give the F a little bit more style to it. And actually I feel that I was going to say I feel that the top bar of the F is too long, but it's the same width as the P, so that's good. So I'm going to select all of these, and now I am going to, because I just need to combine these, I can use Pathfinder, or I could use Shape Builder and just drag through. But Pathfinder just combines them for me. And now I've got my F and my P. I could start stylizing those if I wanted to. So let's say I take the P. I'm going to go to my direct selection tool, and I can click on this point, say, and this point. Hold Shift key down, select them both, and then I could round those out a bit if I wanted to. And I could set up a little rule for myself that every bottom corner on the right is going to be curved. So I'm going to select that one, that one, that one, that one. And I'm going to round all of those a little bit. So there's a little stylish rule for myself. And that just gives it a bit more character. So that's it. So let's just select both of those. And I'm going to give them, let's go to blue fill. Oh, there's another thing I should have done. So let's go back to the P. I'm going to go to Shape Builder, Alt mode, subtract that bit in the middle. So select them both, and I'm going to go to the stroke, make it the same for all of them. Oh, it looks pretty good. So that's basic shape building, but let's go back to, and that's why the grid is good, because you're going to give yourself dimensions to work within, and then you repeat those dimensions for something else. Like if I was to go to a rectangle, for instance, I'm just going to draw 3 wide, 4 high. Let's get rid of that outline. Or rid of the centerpiece. Right, so I'm going to Alt and drag out a copy. I'm going to drag it down to the bottom of this 3x3 square grid, 4x3 square grid that I'm using. I'm going to take another one of these. Sorry. I'm going to rotate it. Pop it over to the side. And you can see those guides are telling me that I'm intersecting with the objects. I'm going to extend that a little bit. You'll see why in a second. Alt and drag a copy over here. And the purple lines are telling me that they intersect. I'll take all of these, and then I'm going to go to my direct selection tool and round everything off, and I can get a stylized kind of letter O if I want to. And now that might be too big, so 4x3 might be too big of a grid for that. Or what you could just do it another way. So let's go with let's go with a rounded rectangle and see if that works a bit better. So I'm going to drag there 3x2 grid. There you go. I'm going to Control C, Control V to make a copy. I'm going to place it directly on top of itself. Alt and Shift. Sorry. Oh, I see. Yeah, my mistake. Sorry, that's not what I want to do. Command Z, and I'm just going to go. That's not responding the way I would expect. So I'm going to scale it down a bit. That's very strange the way that's going. Okay, let me just move that out a bit. And scale it. See, scaling it only brings it down to be a circle. But I want it just to be a smaller version of itself. This is odd. Why is that doing that? No? Say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So that's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. So if we double click on it, hang on, here we go, over here. So this is the properties, the transform properties, and you can see the width and the height. I'm going to switch that off, and that means that they are linked now. So let's say I make that 40. That scaled in both directions? It has, yeah. So when you have this link on, you change one and the other changes in the same proportion. So let's take both of these, shape builder, minus the middle one, and then just plus that one, and now you've got a stylized letter O. And but then all of your other letters have to be built in proportion with that, so we'll come to that later. But yeah, I mean, it's building things out of blocks is the Lego approach to Illustrator, but it really works. I'm going to go back to that other document I had earlier, logo test one, and let's zoom in on. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to use this as the basis for what I'm going to do. So if I think of this as a series of rectangles, there's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is going to be 7 rectangles. 1, 2, 3, 4 horizontal ones, 1, 2, 3 vertical ones. So let's just draw some rectangles here. I'm just using this to eyeball it, and I'm just going to Alt and drag this down to here. Now I want the gap between the two to be bigger than, each of them, so the other one can fit between them. So I select them both, align them up on the left. and I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to say Alt and drag out both of them. Then I get a copy. So I'm going to move those in a bit so they intersect. Now I'm going to take one of these, Alt and drag. I'm just going to rotate it. And I'm using the guides here to line things up. So Alt and drag. They line up. Alt and drag. They line up. So there's my basic shape. I am going to combine all of those. Then I go back to my direct selection tool. I've got all my corners. And there you go. It's not exactly what was done, but I'm kind of speeding through it just to show you the principle of it. The other thing you could do is you could go, maybe I'll try this and see if it works. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and escape. And I'm going to give this no fill down here. And if I go to the properties of this, see where it says stroke here? If I double click stroke or click it, I can tell it to have round capped ends. So you'll see this now when I make it a bit bigger. So I'm going to make this a bit thicker. There it is. It's kind of looking more like what I want, but not exactly right. But we'll settle on this for a second. So at the moment, this is just a line that has a thickness applied to it. It's not a shape that looks like this. It's a line that's that thick. You can't actually get in and edit the corners of this because it is just a thin line that you're telling to show at 6 points of thickness. So if I say object, expand, and just tell it to have a fill and a stroke, okay, and now it is a shape. So if I go to my corners now, I'm just going to select these corners because the rest of them are curved. It gives you something more closer to what we had. So I'm going to, let's say I'm going to select, this might not work, but we'll give it a try. No. I'm going to copy this, Alt and drag. I'm going to rotate it 180. Obviously I didn't give it enough, it's going to connect the two of them there, right? So they don't connect in the way you would want, but let's see what we can do with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one and give it a white outline. And I'm going to give the other one a white outline as well. Let's see if that helps. Yeah. So now they look a little bit more on purpose. You know what I mean? But basically built out of blocks. This is not ever going to be the finished thing because you can see how roughly drawn it is. You know, it's just not. Now, even if you take something like this line here, I'm going to use my pen tool. I'm going to go 1, 2. Now let's just get rid of the outline. I'm going to go back to here. I'm just going to make sure I have that line, and then I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to go there, to there, to there, and again I'm going to make sure it has no outline, or no fill should I say, and hit escape. Lastly, I'm going to attach the P part of this. Okay. There's my logo. Now I can take this bit and using my arrow keys, I might nudge that into a better position. I might select all of this, go to the stroke and say that I want rounded caps on all of the pieces so it doesn't look like it's just so cut off at the end. And this thing I think has a fill. Yeah, let's get rid of that. So there's our logo, just drawn out of lines. And I'm going to scale that up a bit. There you go. So very simple, but let's take this piece here and go to our direct selection tool. And go round off the top of that arrow if you want to, just make it a little bit more drawn because you wouldn't get such a sharp point in an object that's supposed to look like it was drawn. I don't want to do that. I want to do this selection tool. Let's move it into place a bit better. Yeah. Okay, so there's that logo. And again, like something like this one here, for instance, in the center, it's a series of ovals. So I'm going to go with ellipse. I'm going to draw a long oval like this. I'm going to turn it on its side a bit. Try and line it up a bit with the shape. Then I'm going to squish it in from the sides a little bit. And then I just kind of get it roughly where I want it to be. Remember, the original drawing is wrong. It's just a sketch. This is where we make it work. So I'm going to Alt and drag out a copy of this to here. I might drag that in a little bit as well. And then I'm going to take the two of them and scale them down this way. So it's a bit of nip and tuck to get it where you want it to go. Squish that in a bit. And then take this one. You can see that these things are not so straightforward. Okay, let's say with a bit more effort, this is what we got. So I'm going to take these two, and I think if I just do this, I'm left with that curve. With the one above it, I'm just going to draw circles. I'm going to squish them in a bit. I'm going to Alt and drag a copy of this. I'll take them both. And I can do this one. I can subtract the second one from the first one. I'll be left with this. And then I can also just squish that in a bit. Now I'm doing this very roughly. I'm not putting in a lot of time to it, but I just want to show you. And then finally, all I need is a small circle. Okay, so let's zoom in on that. Okay. So there's the original, there's this one. Now you could say, okay, this one needs to be a bit bigger. And you might reposition them because it's a body and you want to get one that seems like you want to get that movement into it. And yeah, I mean, that's rough. This is perfect insofar as it's graphically perfect, if you like. The lines are perfect. So that's it. It's just building shapes out of other shapes, and this kind of level of drawing is what I'm looking for in your sketches. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. Let me know if anything needs clarifying or if there's any other tutorials you might need. Okay, thanks guys.